Hello, everybody, nobody. This is Chris again with Compassionate Time Management for Wednesday number 2. And it's slightly better. So the background is slightly better. Maybe a few things are also slightly better. So that's kind of part of my aesthetic is incremental improvements on something that is useful and good, but keeps getting better. So at any time, if you're actually seeing this, you can, in real time, you can text me and I should get a comment, and you can tell me if you want to, if you have any questions at all about tips on handling procrastination, overwhelm, any of the time management stuff. I don't really like the term time management, but it's the closest thing we have right now that everybody understands. So I put compassionate before that because I think most people are going to feel like, I bought a time management book once and then I just felt worse, and I got halfway through it and tried a few things for a day and then kind of fell off and never did it again, or some version of that. And so I think time management is kind of a weird term. And actually, most of the really cool time management type, productivity type books that I read that are coming out now don't like the term time management either. But someone in the 70s, I think, coined the term, and it worked then, and that was better than what existed before. So I put the word compassionate behind it, so you know that my approach is to work for myself, and when I work with others and when I help others with this stuff, is to put the space of compassion in it. There's no need to beat ourselves up or anyone else up to become more effective. So at any moment, if you have something, you have a question, or if you have a challenge or a question and you also want to message me later, text me later, please feel free and I'll answer it next Wednesday. And if you ever want to be a guest and be sort of coached live, I could be effective at helping you that way too. I think I have a guest coming up who's a friend of mine, although I think we have to set a different time for it because he's busy at this time. But anyway, I'm excited about that. So in the meanwhile, I will talk about what I intuitively feel called to talk about around this huge subject. And again, at any time, if you message me, I will drop what I'm saying basically and help you and talk to whatever the subject is that you want an answer for. Okay. So what I'm feeling now is I'm feeling tension, I'm feeling pressure. It's just not the best morning I've ever had. So I'm kind of feeling, what is it that wants to be stated now about effectiveness? And I feel like, although I could talk about lots of tools and tips and tricks and all that, I feel the thing I'm feeling in my own body is a sense of holding a space of acceptance for where I am now and letting myself be where I am. And so that's important. I like to get into a headspace where I'm like, I've got everything together. I've got my ducks in a row. I know what I'm doing and I feel good about it. And I kind of feel that way a lot of the time, in spite of the chaos that seems to swirl around my life in a certain way. And that's pretty darn cool. And at the same time, I don't always feel that way. I think a big topic here is how do we respond when the going gets tough? How do we work with being the most effective person we can with a compassionate perspective on that, that gives ourselves room to breathe. But how do we do that when we're not feeling the best, or when our night's sleep wasn't the most perfect, or we had a friend that yelled at us, or whatever the situation might be? When the going gets tough, that's when what we're applying really matters. When our practice of effectiveness really makes the biggest difference. So it's like nothing is perfect, as far as I can tell, nothing in this plane of existence. It's like, so my embodiment of that today is, I don't feel perfect. I don't feel wonderful right now. I feel a little off. And when this is done in 20 minutes or so, I will turn it off, get my stuff together, go out and make the next thing happen. And it's like, I like to feel like I can just feel like, yes, I know what I want to do, and I feel good about it, and now I'm doing it, and it worked. And of course, that's what we all want to feel, right? But I've learned to develop a relationship, and I'm saying this because maybe this is something that could be helpful for you, obviously. I've learned to develop a relationship with myself that's like, okay, Chris, if you don't feel great right now, that's okay. You're okay. That's okay. I was talking to a friend the other day, because I think this is a perspective I haven't heard anyone say exactly about all this kind of work, which is you kind of learn how to be a good parent to yourself. You could talk about it in terms of your executive intelligence, or your conscious will, that part of us that decides, and even when we're in a bad mood, it can decide, to take the next action. I don't know if you can hear the birds squeaking and squawking outside in the trees or not. They're kind of fun. Anyway, so this parent self of mine, it's like the reactive part of my body or my emotions or whatever is kind of like a cranky, 3-year-old or whatever. And the parent space in me is loving that and saying, that's okay, and you can freak out, but we're still going to go to the store, or whatever. And that's a really helpful attitude. Whether that 3-year-old part of us or that reactive part of us shows up as emotions that kind of are just up, or it shows up as just really not wanting to do something, or it shows up as, just kind of feeling undisciplined, or constantly forgetting to do something that we said we were going to do. Whatever it is, like, we can be that helpful, loving parent, right? So the parent self that we can cultivate for ourselves can remind us, hey, we have to do this. But the other thing that the parent self can do, which I think is really cool, is we can say, okay, you said you're going to do this, and I know you said you're going to do this. You're just going to remember. But have you noticed that you keep forgetting? And so that there's a part of us that wants to say, it's almost like the 10-year-old wants to say, oh yeah, but this time I won't forget. This time I will remember. I will just decide to remember. But there's a wider part of us that can widen out from that and say, okay, but that hasn't worked. What will work? What is effective? What are the things I do that help me remember? For example, for a lot of people, it's like I know that if I have an appointment in my calendar, I will not forget that appointment. 98.4% good at that, right? Effective with that. So if I set an appointment to deliver something, it will get delivered. And I don't understand why that is exactly. There's some social, behavioral, human instinct to like not want to let someone else down. But that can be leveraged, right? And so I see people sometimes saying, no, I'm just going to remember. I'm just going to remember. And it's like you're asking the reactive child part of you to become the adult. In other words, when we're very conscious and we're making a decision, I am not going to forget this time. What we're telling ourselves is, I'm very conscious, I'm deciding, and I'm never going to change from this state. I'm going to be in this state for the next 9 days until the appointment, and I will never forget it. And it's like, it would be much wiser to predict that we will not stay in this state. But while I am in this state, while I am deciding, I can take one highly leveraged conscious action to schedule that appointment, or whatever it is. There's a lot of other triggers you can add to your life. I'm going to do this one highly leveraged action so that the part of me that forgets can be off the hook a little bit, and then it just will happen. I mean, if you're always forgetting to bring something to your car or take out the trash, let's say, well, you could put the trash right in front of your door when you go outside in the morning, or whatever it is, or the bag you don't want to forget, right? And so I've done this kind of thing so many times. So it's like, oh, I just try to remember. Darn, I forgot again. I just tried to remember. Darn, I forgot again. I forgot again and again and again. But in one moment, if I can train that conscious part of me to just put the trash in front of the door, or the bag in front of the door, or whatever, not even maybe to the side of the door. Side of the door, I could still ignore it sometimes. But in front of the door, and I'll be going up the door, automatic pilot, right? And say, oh, look, that's sitting right there. I guess, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to bring it. Fine, I'll bring it, This is really an attitude that I got a lot from the book Atomic Habits. That was a book that I highly recommend, the book Atomic Habits. Really talking about how we can program simple, high leverage actions like this that have a cascading effect of positivity in our lives, rather than just trying to be perfect people all day long, every single moment of our lives. And another way of talking about that, which has been helpful for a lot of people in the last several years, is this research that talks about willpower as a gas tank. It's this full, and then it gets depleted over time from different actions that we do. And if you use that willpower to set up a strategically intelligent thing that predicts the reactive behavior that you're likely to go into at some point during the day, or the forgetful behavior, or the distracted behavior, you will have far, far better results than if instead you say, no, I've just got to turn over a new leaf and be a good person. And this was actually a big realization I had after kind of having to practice these kinds of things for years and years, that I had a while ago, which was our executive intelligence, that part of us that really knows how to decide, that really says, I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to do this. It's very powerful. It has the power to decide and to choose. It has the ability to be strategic and think things through, to reason, and it has the ability to look at patterns of behavior and say, wow, okay, so I tried to do this 9 times and it still hasn't worked. We could go into reaction and say, oh God, well, I'm just going to try a 10th time, and I just know this time I'll become a good person who does this. And I think that whole attitude as a sidebar of thinking we're only a good person when it's like the only part of us that's a good person is the part that's very, very source and conscious and awake and deciding. And all the other parts of who we've incarnated to be or who we are, whatever you want to say, like all those other parts are like wrong and defective and bad. And it's like, no, I think I could love the whole of my being, including the fearful parts, including the parts that are just meant to be like a kid, the parts that are meant to be forgetful, maybe, the parts that are meant to be absent-minded, want to have fun, want to avoid, want to goof off, want to feel free. Actually, if I was all that part that like just must get things done, maybe that wouldn't be I wouldn't be a whole person. But so it's more like about the role that these different parts play in us. That's kind of a cool idea. A friend of mine is really interested in I think it's called internal family dynamics, where you look at the different parts of you as just different voices within yourself. I really like that idea. Um, Side note, if you just tuned in by any chance, this is Compassionate Time Management with Chris. And if you have any challenges, questions, queries, obstacles around your effectiveness, please put them in the chat bar if you want, or message me later. And I'm very happy, or private message me, and I'm very happy to answer them and address them. So I'm kind of going off on this riff, but at any time, if you have questions, please let me know and I will stop and answer them. Okay. Or if they're later, I will answer them in the next one. Yeah, so I'm talking about this kindness that maybe, internal the family dynamics, that maybe the kid part of us is meant to be forgetful and playful, and the executive intelligence sort of adult part of us is meant to be sort of like, okay, what should we do here? What should we do here? So in that sense, it is kind of like it gets to sort of parent the rest of the parts. It's like it's the one that knows, like, if we don't pay the bill, the power will come off or whatever, or the phone will stop working. And so it's more about how we work with those different parts and what role can I be most effective in as this sort of parent executive intelligence will part of me. So like here's the crux of the realization. It's like when I tell myself I will always be this deliberate, I'm constantly setting myself up for failure because I won't. And the realization I had was, oh, this conscious, awake, aware, thoughtful self is so aware of things, so much more aware of things in the bigger picture of how things go in my life, but it makes its own mistake. And the mistake it tends to make is, I will always be in this state. I'm in it now, and I will probably always be in it. Oops, that's a mistake. So then you see, if you, the point is this. So if you say, I'm sitting here right now and I'm deciding I'm going to do this, I'm just going to remember, I'm going to do it perfectly, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to need reminding or motivation or strategies of any kind. I will just decide. And like, if you could sustain that level of will and determination and focus on that specific thing for the next, however many hours and days you needed to, then that could be true, but you won't. You'll move off to other things. You'll get into other states. The world will distract you. All kinds of things will happen, right? So like if you want that part of you to become wiser, it can. Much more capable of that part of you to become wiser than like some of the other parts of you. You can say, wow, a wise use of this power I have to consciously decide is to strategically prepare for the time when I will not be thinking about this thing so intensely, but still want something to get done to move that goal forward, where I will not be totally awake or calm or determined, where I will not be 100% looking back at the patterns and saying, wow, what didn't work, what did work, how can I correct it, right? So in other words, like those moments when you do that, it's really good if you have them, right? It's the whole other topic of taking those time to have those things. But then part of the strategy is, write down your observations, and then set up strategic triggers to encourage your behavior, predicting that you will have this other part of you that is lazy, sleepy, forgetful, reactive, having a bad morning, whatever. Like, design your life so that it works even when you're not being perfect. I think that just sums it up. It sums it up so well, and I think we're at about 25 minutes, which is what I did last time, and it seemed like a good amount of time, so I'll just leave it there. Design your life so that it works even when you're not being perfect. Okay, so once again, if you have any questions, thoughts, I've kind of become a little bit of an encyclopedia of this kind of effectiveness, whether it's more from a mindfulness or attention practice or spiritual practice perspective or a business and research perspective. If you'd like help, message me. I can give you help, and just would love to hear your questions if you have any. Okay, thanks.